intro video, none of that highfalutin fancy stuff. We are doing this stream old school.
Which is why I've got clipping.
It shows up. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday. It is time once again for the Mattriarchy. And you might notice something different about my setup today. I'm staring down at my computer because I was out there in the world before the show proving my redneck bona fides. I've got my kids' convertible that where the windows won't roll down. Yeah, it's up on blocks in my front yard. Well, actually, I'm in front of my driveway because it's leaking oil out of it, like pouring out from around the oil filter. I got to figure out what the heck's going on with it. But I ran out of time, so I got to run in with all my grunginess, and I didn't get my time to get my usual table set up here. So that's the story. You get to see me unfiltered.
And yet you still got cat on the run behind you.
I'm about a week behind needing a good trim on the beard, too. It's ungainly. Anyway, we're here to talk about what's wrong with me.
Wait, before we start, what are those things behind you? We have never seen those. I've always seen books. What are those things?
Oh,
is that a drum?
No. This here?
Yeah, what's that?
This is a wooden box.
Okay.
And it holds stuff.
Okay.
And this one here is a wooden, well, it's a fake wood. They used to make this product about 15 years ago called Kid Wood.
Oh.
And it's a kind of foam rubber for kids to carve and stuff. And for my birthday one year, my boys made me this cool pirate ship out of Kid Wood.
I thought that was a character at a microphone singing.
Oh, I can see that. It is not so.
Okay.
So, but yeah, my kids made that. That was in my old office at the old job. I had a huge office, and that was in there with some little pirates and whatever else. But now it's just hanging out here for now.
Okay.
Yeah, and back here is this awesome blackout curtain that my wife crocheted. So.
Oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah, it's across the window.
Across the window, yeah. This is
gotcha.
Basement window right here. Yep.
Okay.
As I always say, I'm coming to you from a basement in Nebraska.
I'm from a basement in Minnesota.
I guess I'm technically in a basement.
So
but this is not my parents' basement, though. This is my own. I own it.
Yes, same here. It's my basement.
Need to make that clear. Yeah.
I nearly own more of it than the bank does.
Oh, Isaac, you gotta feature Isaac's comment there. He stares down at us like the minions we are.
So I think about all the little people. That's not true. Yeah. I also hope it's not a thrown rod. I don't think so. It's not rat making any noise. It's just leaking oil all over the bottom of the car. So.
I'll pretend I know what any of that means.
Well, I can explain it, but that's not the kind of show this is. If you guys wanted to hear about fixing cars, we could be here for hours.
Well, it's about mechs.
Yeah.
There is mechanics in it.
That's true. That's true. We are here today to talk about, and I am kind of bummed. I don't think Twitless is going to make it. I think if he was going to make it, he'd made it by now. Who knows?
He's often been showing up late lately.
He has been. That's fine. Gear by Doug Tenaple, which was Doug's first.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing at Isaac. Isaac made me laugh. Sorry.
Yeah. That's great. Your mom just calls over. Do your Super Sick Club meeting, right, Hutch?
Mom, you can't pause online games.
You called it the worst possible time. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's what we're reviewing.
That's what we're reviewing today. Gear by Doug Tenaple. This is his. It often gets called his first graphic novel, but that's not technically correct, which I just found out about. This was originally published as a 6-issue miniseries by a place called Fireman Press, something small press, presumably in Southern California where Doug lived, and then was collected in a trade and then was republished by Image in 2007. So this copy is the 20-year anniversary edition, which is 2018, the anniversary of the publication of the first issue, not of the entire volume. Yep.
Okay.
Well, so do you have any explanation why in the version I'm reading online it's separated into two halves?
Probably because it's huge.
Okay.
That's my only guess. Anyway. Yeah. So that is a thing. First of all, I don't. This was not the first Tenaple book that I ever read. In fact, I think the first Tenaple book I read was actually Bad Island. There's a whole story about that I'm not going to get into right now. We'll save that for the Bad Island stream, which we would need to do at some point. But Hutch, before the show, said, why did you pick this book, Reese? And I said, well, one, it's brilliant. And two, it's got cat politics in it. And I wanted to get Cartoonicus's take on cat politics. So it's become sort of a little bit, tiny little bit of a game of mine to try to find what I can subject Cartoonicus to and where his breaking point might be.
Why? I was the one who suggested one more day.
Yeah, maybe that's why. I'm not sure. No, I just find it fun. I can't explain it. It's probably something wrong with my brain.
Well, I'm going to be interested in hearing why you were interested in this. Because I've read, and just to make it clear where I stand, I have read Ghostopolis, Cardboard, and that video game one that we reviewed, which I do not remember the title of. Power Up. That's it. Yes. I could not remember the name, but I did enjoy that one. I enjoyed Cardboard immensely. I think I recommend that one. Oh, that is one I would push on people as this should be. I mean, Pixar's making bad movies. Cardboard, they should run out and grab that as a source for a story. It's like it's imaginative. It would have textures. It would be really fun to CGI, and you would have, and of course his art style works very well for cartooning because Earthworm Jim and all that. And so, it would be a natural. It doesn't have to be Pixar, but I'm just saying Pixar's made some bad movies, and here's good ideas right here that aren't being made into movies, and why not? That's all I'm saying. Cardboard is great. Ghostopolis is next level down. I liked it. I didn't love it. But I've yet to read Bad Island, but it is on my schedule. So that's next probably. But and Power Up was good. That was my first exposure to him, and then I went out and sought these other things. So and I've read Gear, and I did not enjoy it. I found it I found it a little hard to approach, and the style is very different. And I don't know. It didn't trip my trigger at all. So I don't say I hate it, but it's, if you had told me that it was a rough draft by somebody who'd never done comic books, I'd have said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Good luck next time, but yet you told me that it's his best-selling thing and maybe his most favorite, his most popular.
It's one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
It's continually, the thing about it is it's very well, I'm not sure if it's his best-selling. I think Newt's is actually his best-selling. And it might be hard to gauge because there's 3 volumes of Newt's. So it's like, is it as a whole, or is it whatever? But so I'm not sure it's his best selling, but it has been selling, continually selling, from 2007 on.
The fact that it has to be kept in print kind of tells you, yeah.
And so that's something. It's definitely one of his best selling things, and people keep buying it. And it actually the Nickelodeon show Cat Scratch was spun out from the pitch for Gear. So Even though the TV, the only thing that really super has in common with the book is the cat characters. They show up again in Cat Scratch, whereas the premise is different, the world building is different. There are no giant robots, which is somewhat unfortunate, I think. So, but Cartoonicus, first thoughts, where does this hit you?
Oh, gosh darn it. I really want to like Doug Knaple. Believe me, I really, really do. The guy is super creative, but he keeps throwing these hurdles at me in every book. Now, I have read, I must be forgetting one because I have to think I had read more than 2 books before this. But I know all I can think of is I read Power Up and I read Rat Fist. And then I had been with you guys on other streams talking about Newts, Ghostopolis, and Earthboy Jacobus. So I've got, either way, I've got a pretty good handle, on who he is, what he does, right? If you're familiar, if you are familiar with the YouTubers Overly Sarcastic Productions, one of them came up with what I thought was a brilliant term recently, and that was tone armor. You've heard of plot armor? They talked about tone armor, meaning that you can protect your characters in the same way through the overall feeling, the tone of the world you're living in. Is this made to be a gritty, R-rated action movie? Is it made to be a lighthearted kids animated movie? Et cetera, et cetera. Right? I feel like Doug has no sense of tone whatsoever because he will throw everything in there at once. It'll be juvenile, it'll be violent, it'll be dark, it'll be comical, and it's chaos. And none, I think, it's either a toss-up between this and Rat Fist for the most chaotic books that I have read at this point from him. The difference is...
Oh, sorry. Did I screw up his sound? I'm sorry. Uh-oh. Maybe I'm screwed up. I can't hear anything.
Until I know you're back. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, sorry.
I can't hear Matt.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, neither can I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot.
How about now?
There, okay.
Good.
Thought it was my stupid internet.
So
anyway, what I was going to say...
Chat, before, since we're stopped anyway, the metal says, beware, Doug is a wizard and like 11 feet tall. And Sad Robot, hey, I know that guy. He says, okay, I'm here. How many change gears puns have I missed?
Not yet.
But that is kind of what he's talking about tone changing. That I noticed that, like with Ghostopolis, that it's a very humorous book about a kid with a terminal illness, and it's like, and it kind of is all over. It's about the afterlife. It's kind of about religion. It's also a very funny book.
Well, and here's the thing, right?
It's kind of all over. Yeah.
You can not easily, but you can very well mix together serious and levity, in the same thing and do it well. Look at
the movie Up. Yeah, like the movie Up.
Right. I mean, but you have to know what you're doing. Tone is part of that. You actually kind of build your world in terms of what material you're willing to work with and how, right? If you remember, I talked about in the Rat Fist stream, that Doug does 2 major things in anything his writing. He does the Earthworm Jim era of just crazy random, randomness for the sake of randomness for comedy's sake, right? And then on another end, he has the ability to just go crazy with the allegories. And do all this super meaningful metaphorical stuff. And And it wasn't until I got to Ratcliffe that I realized I had never seen both of those done in the same book before. And one of the problems with that is that I never knew what he was actually saying, because no matter what crazy thing happened, I'm left asking, okay, does Doug actually believe this? Is he creating a straw man through his character? Is it supposed to be metaphorical, or is it just randomness? Right? And so it was just so much chaos and very hard to understand. But even in that one, when it gets to the end, it clearly has a very specific message it's trying to teach you. With this one, I don't know what I'm even reading, honestly. We get to the end and I'm like, so what was the point of all that?
Well, there's not a point. There's lots of elements in it. So I guess here's the thing that I don't have a, here's part of my question. I don't understand like really what you're saying at all. So before we get into how baffled I am and lack of understanding about what you're not understanding, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the plot. Okay. And I did not have any visual aids queued up. I do have my copy right here with all this great glare.
I've got the side up if you want.
Here we go. Many of the points are the character's ears. It's great. It's great. So now the books begin right with this well, it's an assassination.
Right. So right away,
we're jumping right into this very Disney influenced art.
Yeah, right? And somebody gets shot in the head.
And a gun right next to his head.
Right. I'm like, hey, look, kitties. Okay, so that's happening.
Right. Well, and here's part of the thing is like in perfect fairness, right? This is not a defense of the project, right? This was Doug's like first major comic book. I mean, Doug has done comics virtually his entire life, like just drawing them up and all sorts of stuff for himself. Mm-hmm. And Evil the Cat from Earthworm Jim, back in college, I think it was, he did a 22-page Evil the Cat comic that was never like mass printed, and then was reprinted during one of his Earthworm Jim campaigns. So I've got that. But this was the first like graphic novel. This is the first long form story that Doug did as a single composed piece. Right now, I don't think that means that there's any need to cut him slack on it, because I think it's great. But that being said, like, because he did not have an audience that he was working toward, right? Then it's like he talked about how when he made Rat Fist, he just wanted to throw everything at the wall and just do whatever. And so he had like an end in mind, and how he got there, he just kind of made up as he went, right? And anything that caught his fancy, he drew with it, because he was doing weekly web comics, all this kind of stuff. So your comparison of the end product of Rat Fist and Gear, I think, is super appropriate, because these are both audiences, or these are both projects where the audience predominantly in the creative process is Doug himself, right? Not that he's not making it for other people, but first, that Doug is making what he wants first. And that's the thing is, so then later on in projects, you look at Tommy Source Rex, you look at Flink, you look at even Cardboard. At that point, he had a more defined who's buying my books, right? So how can I get those customers the best product that they are looking for with their sets of expectations, right? Mm-hmm. Because he knows, because he's got a customer base at that point, right? And Doug is nothing if not a capitalist, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Warner Brothers cartoons of the 30s through the 50s, that era, that those guys were writing for themselves. They were not writing for a bunch of kids. It was not made for Saturday morning. It was made to go in front of movies, and the movies would not be kiddie movies. They would be just the movies.
Yep.
And they would do stuff for themselves. And that's why you'll have, Bugs Bunny putting a gun to his head to commit suicide because something went badly. And then he ducks and shoots Sam. But, they'll do dark stuff. They'll have the fact that they're shooting guns at each other, and they don't have the parents' councils going after them because they're writing for themselves. They're not writing.
But
for
I feel
kids.
like even in those, what they are doing is part of their tone.
Yeah,
They know what they're doing. They know what they understand, and they're consistent in it.
right. What I don't get about this is I don't even know what's happening here. Are these dogs?
Yes, these are dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the dog.
This scene it leads up with is actually a throwback, right, to something that happened, some indeterminate amount of time before the main story. Right.
Okay. And I didn't get that at all. I didn't get how this connected up with anything.
Yeah.
So,
it's referenced in, I think, chapter 4, exactly what was going on there.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just there. That setup. I think the thing about this opening scene, right? I think it's there to tell you that death is going to be a major theme. Death and crime. This story's got big stakes.
Yeah.
Right.
Characters will die in this.
Characters are going to die.
Right.
It's serious. You got this fun cartoony style, but don't let that kid you. This is serious, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a little strange. I'm not trying to pick at you, cartoon kids, but you're talking about that. What's the tone of this? You like Lackadaisy, man, right? Which is totally like cute little animals that are totally murdering each other.
But I would no. I mean, it's not like it's all over the place. But I would suggest that
it's not all over the place. It's not rare either.
Of something that does have its tonal dissonance down. It knows what it is balancing and how it is balancing.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that in some of these later, the most recent books I've been reading from Doug, it feels like anything can come out of the woodwork anytime, right? The very first thing we see is a bunch of cartoon cats. The very next thing you do open the book, we've got gangsters popping people in the heads.
Right.
Then suddenly we've got these characters who clearly look like Disney characters, but that's only the dogs. The cats have their completely different style. Then we've got giant robots coming out of nowhere. But and like I could keep going on. You're immediately thrown into this this battle against the giant robot that you think is just going to be fun and cartoony, and we've got this little fat cat character, and then bam, he's been flattened, right?
So, Cartoonicus, why would you think it would be fun and cartoony when the very first panel is a cartoon dog with a gun to his head?
So again, that would make sense to us nowadays when we are inundated with all these, post Steamboat Willie coming into the public domain horror games utilizing the irony of the cartoon style, right? But here I'm getting whiplash.
Yeah. See,
every page it's changing up what it's doing. It's changing up how it's doing it.
I wouldn't agree with that assertion
what the
either.
themes are.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't agree with that assertion either.
It keeps there is no main character in this, right? It gets very hard to keep up with who you're supposed to be following and why. Like they jump around through these 8 different stories. You go from a character who I thought was going to be the main character, boom, he's dead. Okay, who's the actual main? Okay, now we got this other character. He runs off and sulks into the world. He comes back 5 minutes later. I'm sorry, but we need to slow down and start setting ourselves up. Doug can rush through these stories at times, and it's like.
So I don't think this is rushing. I don't think this is rushing at all. I think you're trying to put it into a box where it doesn't belong, right? So this is because the gear is more. It's less akin to like a Saturday morning cartoon, right? and it's more akin to like a fantasy piece, right? So it doesn't necessarily have a main character. There are several main characters that are part of a fellowship that are all experiencing similar things in different ways. And every stage along the process, as we're meeting these characters, they're being introduced to aspects of a greater world, right? So that's part of the thing where it's like, you know, the first thing out the block, we find out that like death has stakes, right? Then as soon as we have that scene, we are introduced to cats, and their cats are out to do a thing. They're out on a mission, right? But before we get to that, we get to talk to some of them. They've got some silly attitudes, the whole business, and they are looking for, you know, they're out to hunt these guardians. So we've got this idea that these cats, which they live in especially Waffle, has got this idea of beauty. He's got this idea that life is to be lived and experienced, and that some sort of unity with nature, that living alongside nature is part of living the life the way it is supposed to be lived, right? But they don't live in an ideal world of rodents and footy pajamas, right? We already saw this murder, this noir kind of setting going on here, right? And then we are introduced to these giant mechs that are terrorizing the village, and we find out these cats are on a mission to steal one from a foreign government.
Oh, is that what they're doing? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I still didn't get that. Okay.
Yeah. So the factions, in fact, let me skip to, there's a section where they have a map of the whole town. I mean, of the whole area. I'm going to give myself the screen here, guys, so I can show off.
And that's a long way down the story before they finally show you the three cultures that are at war.
And they talk about it throughout the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the South Plate, right? And in South Plate, there are the Newtown cats, and that's where these guys are from Newton.
Mm-hmm.
Newton cats, and you've got the mantises, right? And the mantises are encroaching northward, right? They are the enemies of the North Plate creatures, and the North Plate cats, and in North Plate as well, you've got Dogtown, right? And so you've actually got 4 different factions, but just Newton is tiny little guys. So, but these are mentioned. Take it off myself here. These are mentioned in throughout the dialogue.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's actually interesting that where they put this in the thing in it is just they've already talked about all these places and all these people, but just in case you hadn't put it together in your head, here's a visual. And I actually think that, I did not talk to Doug about this, but I suspect that the placement of the map in the volume was about the time, as it was being published. It's like, maybe visual aid would be good because it was coming out, throughout like issue 1, issue 2, that kind of process. So, but yeah. So I mean, because they're discussing these sort of things. I didn't, and of course, it was the second time I read it, right? So maybe I'm being, now explain the gear code.
maybe that helps. Yeah, if I read it twice, I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like it enough the first time to make me want to reread it. But this does help if you're explaining some of this. So thank you.
I definitely want to get into that too. So. Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, you've got this, and he definitely like Doug is cribbing notes from Tolkien in a lot of ways, not just in the concept of the writing a fellowship, not just the concept of using this fantasy with maps, but you also have there are 2.5 underlying modes of operation within the story, right? So. One is you've got the North Plate cats and the Dogtown dogs that are dedicated wholeheartedly to a technological lifestyle, right? And the Newtown cats are more spiritual. they are trying to be connected to nature. They use technology, but they haven't been maintaining their guardian, right? It wasn't part of their lifestyle. And now that they're kind of like hobbits in that way, where they're having forces from the outside come down upon their city, and now they're forced into these combat arenas. And so the priest of the Newtown Cats has sent these 4 other cats, Mr. Black and Waffle and Simon and the orange one, to I can't remember his name right now. To get this new guardian, because their old guardian isn't going to hold up to snuff. It's grown into the earth. Mm-hmm. Oh no, we lost Cartoonicus again.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have these. So you've got these the mechanistic peoples, and they're there. We find out to use machines, to use technology to bend nature to their will.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the Newtown Cats have sworn not to engage in the technology, to the mutation, the building guardians. We find out toward the end of the thing where the guardians actually came from, and it's horrifying. But with that, so you've got these things, but there's also this idea that beyond the realm of the scene, there's the spiritual world. There's this like cat and dog heaven where peace reigns, and where life goes on, but life goes on without strife, without the politics and the jockeying for position. And that realm is not distant from the world of Gears, but it is not part of the world of Gears either.
Okay.
Right?
Can I ask you while you're continue going on? Would you pull up the page that has the Newtown Cats talking about their guardian, which is a pile of scrap? They say it's falling apart, and I want to talk about that page. And go back to keep talking about the setup, because I do.
I'll have to. The only problem,
mm-hmm.
He's back. Oh, good, he's back, and he brought Clippy. But he's gone.
It's in chapter 2. Okay.
Yeah. I've got to get to it here, because I don't have that digitally, and it'll be really weird if I try to pull up my book. No, it's fine. It's not great for streaming that way. I didn't think this ahead very well.
I could. I suppose I could show my browser where I have it.
No, that's fine. I'll be right there.
Okay. The reason I wanted to talk about that page is, we're talking about the tone, the problem of tone. It's like we've had, this execution of a dog, and then the cat that got stepped on. It was very traumatizing the way it plays out. The one guy's asking the other, has he got a knife so he could cut off his tail because he's been pinned to the ground, and this big robot's about to smash him, and it does, and it walks away, and then there's a talking fish there for some reason I don't get, but then
and I can explain the talking fish too.
Okay, but just hang on. Then you got this page as the cats are talking about their guardian. They says, this thing's a pile of scrap. The other day, a metal panel fell off, landed on a fruit stand, nearly killing an old lady. And as they're talking, a light, like an eye socket, a light falls from the eye socket, bounces down, and lands on a cat and crushes him.
Right.
And it's like, so, this is. That's a cartoony scene, except that this is a real, somebody just got killed, and it's not played that way. It's like, it's not, I mean, the other cats all feel so terrible and are gloomy, and it's ruined their, they feel so glum about the one being killed, but then this person just got killed by a crushing light, and it's funny. And it's like, it can't be funny, like haha funny, like Looney Tunes funny, if you're in a world where the coyote, falls off a cliff and he's dead forever. It doesn't play the same way. So that's the problem with that scene. It's like, it is a weird shift in tone. Yeah.
Well, and I think honestly, part of that is because we don't actually see what happens after this. Yeah. And that's the,
So that's exactly the page. Yeah, and
you had a whole week for this assignment, Mr. Reese. I had a month. right?
Yeah,
It
that's
was
exactly.
an isolated incident. Our safety inspector checked out the rest of the Guardian and found it to be fine, right? Well,
Yeah.
So the thing is there we don't have with this scene, we don't have, and you can say that like why is this death played for laughs while the other one isn't? I think
Right.
part of that's because what we're actually looking at is we are wanting to discuss the nature of the priest, right? I think we actually have a hint as to the more about the person of this priest, because he is somewhat questionable in the story, right? And that's one of those things where he seems to be played in much of the story. At least he's projecting himself to be some sort of moral arbiter within the world of gear, right?
I didn't even know he was a priest. That
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
yeah, and but the thing is there are decisions that he has made later on in the story that have mixed implications, right? And I'm not sure how much I want to go into it because I really like where they went with that, because the thing is this guy is in a position where he's both the priest of the temple there in Newtown and Newton, and he is a the some sort of ruler as well, where he's basically got some executive authority. And so you have this idea where this guy's got the combination of priestly and kingly duties, and he's not necessarily great at either of them, right? And that's if there's one, there's the Newton cats, they are trying to live lives that are more in line with nature, more in line with finding a balance sort of living. They're not given the technocracy. They're not living in giant cities. They're appreciating their natural life, but they're not preparing for the future in any sort of sense. And that's one of the things that becomes a large problem in that, So,
Okay.
and then when their guardian, which is in disrepair and hasn't been maintained, is destroyed by the coming the mantis invasion, well, suddenly it becomes a really big deal for people to like battle comes for them, so
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put my dog outside, but keep talking.
okay. Oh, Cartoonicus is back.
Okay, you can talk to Cartoonicus. Okay. What? Maybe you can't talk to Cartoonicus.
That was real robot-y, man. Jim, I'd like to point out
satellite internet.
Ah, there you are. Sunspots. Did we get you? Well.
Okay.
Huh. Okay, great TV. So, I suppose that one of the things I want to go on and talk about too is that one of the other plot points is that once the invasions start happening, actually one of the things I want to bring up is that the Waffle, back in he's one of the cats, and it's his brother Simon who was crushed earlier, and Waffle has gone off into the forest to kind of be alone, and because he feels it's Waffle's death was his. Simon's death was his fault, and so he's deep in grief. And then he meets a mantis boy out in the forest, and he can speak to the woodland creatures, right? So he's talking to the mantis boy just like whatever, and it perks both of their spirits up, and whatever they have to say. And then Waffle goes out and he goes to talk to back to the other cats who have taken over the guardian from North Plate, and he says, Waffle, are you okay? And he's like, oh, I just met a mantis in the woods. And they're like all freaked out. Oh my goodness, are you going to be okay? Are they coming out for us? He's like, oh no, he's a friend, and he told me that I'm special. Well, he is a little special. He's a little touched, right? So that's kind of a joke in there. But one of the things that happens is then Waffle rejoins the group and they start making their way back south. And before long, Waffle, the light starts shooting out of his eyes and he starts transforming. And all this gears and mechanisms start extruding off from him. And his body morphs in this giant mech. And that's and we have this question that begins put in the air is, are these mechs connected to these beings in this world somehow? Are they living of themselves, or are they or what's the situation with it? And so the two remaining cats, Mr. Black and I'm gonna have to remember this dude's name. Don't remember his name. Anyway, this one. They start roaming through Waffle's body and trying to figure out what the whole story is, the deal. And Waffle, of course, has gone on into the next life. Right, his body is left behind. And they start making their way with two guardians back to Newton. Meanwhile, in Newton, the priest king is wondering whether or not he should do the thing he said he'd never do. And he rolls around a little gear in his fingers. And then we flash back into the past. And what happens is there is a character, Dr. Pilk. And Dr. Pilk is an archaeologist from Dogtown, and he and his associate were investigating beneath Mount Peak up in North Plate, and they discover an ancient artifact, which is a gear machine that nobody knows for sure what it's for, but there's this rumor, this legend about a machine called the, what is it? Oh my goodness, I forget the name of it. The Forbidden Mechanism. And it's a gear. Cartoonicus, who I cannot hear. Can I hear anyone? I'm not muted, am I?
No, I hear you
I
just
can hear
fine.
you. I didn't.
Oh, okay. I can hear you now, Cartoonicus.
I haven't been saying a lot because I didn't know if you would be able to hear me well. But
oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. Let me remove my thing and show your thing. Oh man.
Move on with it.
I appreciate the art. I mean, I do. I
absolutely love you.
My inability to get the stuff out of the story does not mean that I don't appreciate. A lot of some of these pages really look awesome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And the original was just published in black and white. And Catherine Garner, who is one heck of a nice person, possibly the nicest person ever. Anyway, Catherine has did the colors on it for the 2007 release. So she also did a lot of Doug's colors. Most of Doug's colors, Catherine's done. Not all, but many of them. Excellent stuff.
I think I found it here.
Well, Dr. Pilk discovered the mechanism and has hidden it away. And that involves the assassination at the beginning of the story. Happens just before this event in the past where there's a mob boss called the Big Tomato. And the Big Tomato is out to get the gear for himself. And it's all part of this elaborate political intrigue between the Dogtown and the North Plate Cats. And the president of Dogtown hired the Big Tomato to get the forbidden mechanism. Anyhow, not to get too far into this, but the point is that is that Dr. Pilk's assistant, who was working for the Big Tomato in secret, refused to give up the location of the forbidden mechanism, and that's why he's killed in the beginning of the book, right?
Oh, okay.
Which that's actually in the timeline of things, right? That's actually the first thing that happens.
Okay.
Right, in the story, because it's told out of order, right? And so the very first thing that happens the very, very first thing is the creation of the forbidden mechanism during the time of the original Age of the Guardians. But in terms of what the events we see on screen, the first thing that happens is the assistant's death. Then the Big Tomato goes after Dr. Pilk. Dr. Pilk takes him to Mount Peak and locks him inside with a monster, and then he escapes to Newton, gives the forbidden mechanism to the priest of Newton, and then he's captured by the mechanism cult, who then realize that he has a fake machine and kills him. so he's killed by the cult. When they realize when they track him down to get the mechanism, they don't realize it's fake till they try to use it later on. So, but that's actually those events are before the cats are sent out to go get the new mechanism, and that's part of which I'm a huge fan of nonlinear storytelling. Mm-hmm. I really like flashbacks and flash forwards and what's going on at the same time. Meanwhile, across town, all that kind of stuff. I love it. Right.
Yeah.
So, when I see a hint of all of that, it's got me, flipping back through the book. Like, what did I miss? What did I miss?
See, the problem with nonlinear stuff is that it almost assumes that you are going to be rewatching or rereading it's like when I saw Pulp Fiction the first time, I mean, I watched it, like, I was probably in the first crowds that saw it. And I remember it ended and all these people were like, what the hell was that? It did not have the reaction that it's like, this is this movie that everybody's acclaiming as really good. And it's like, what was, I didn't get it. How they're trying to make sense of the thing being shown out of order. And then, it's great. Once you've rewatched it many times, you don't even think about the fact that it's kind of unapproachable the first time,
Yeah. And that must be something the way I'm wired. Because the first time, to be honest, the first time I sat down to watch Pulp Fiction, right, I was blown away and also disgusted, right? Yeah. I was 18, fundy kid, just out of Christian school. It was like way too like grotesque for me, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just like, maybe I shouldn't be watching this. Maybe this is bad for my soul, right? But man, it's maybe it was. I'm sort of a reprobate now, but it got its hooks in me, right? And so like that nonlinear storytelling, I grasped it immediately. Something about the way my brain works, I knew I could see what was going on, and I had to pull those threads and I had to put those pieces together. And there were parts in the first part that I saw where I was like, okay, this segment and this segment, they're in inverse order, and I got to find out what happens before that, right? So that may have been just something in the way. I mean, the first time I saw Bambi, actually, the only time I saw Bambi
was Bambi shown out of order.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No, I watched it out of order.
Okay.
So I'd seen clips and bits of Bambi on like Disney Channel and stuff when I was a kid, but it never really got my interest, right? Even as a little child, it's just something that I'm like, okay, that's great. Whatever. Cute thing, bunny, whatever. But when I was in high school, we were over visiting my great aunt, and mom and dad and my great aunt and my her husband were chatting about whatever, and they'd gotten beyond the point of me understanding or caring what they were talking about. So I went off to roam around the house, and there was a VCR downstairs, and I pushed play, and it was the last 10 minutes of Bambi.
Okay.
Okay. And I watched the last 10 minutes of Bambi, and I'm like, what's the big fuss about? So I backed it up, and I watched the next 5 minutes. And I was like, I don't get the appeal. And then I backed it up, and I watch the next bit. I backed up, watch the next bit, and then Bambi's mother dies, and I laugh like full out. It was hilarious. Now, it was just so like the movie so wanted you to care about this deer, and maybe it's because I watched it out of order, and so I wasn't prepped with all of watching Bambi's mom take care of Bambi as a baby, take care of Bambi as a young deer, all that kind of stuff. So I don't have the emotion. I mean, I'd seen it. I knew what was going on with all of that. I listened to the, read along Disney story, beep and turn the page thing, right?
Yeah.
But watching it, I didn't have that attention to it. And so when I'm backing it up, I'm just like the level of energy that the film puts into making you care. I couldn't invest myself in that, and it caught me just as funny. But of course, maybe there's just something very wrong with me. Even then, even as a 17-year-old fundy kid, maybe there's just something wrong with me deeply. I don't know. Anyway, point being,
yeah.
When I watched Pulp Fiction, I did not have any problem putting the pieces together. And so years later, when I read Gear, it was the same situation. Like, you see the first scene and it's out of place. It doesn't seem to fit the second scene, right? So you just tuck it away in the back of your mind. And then when you start pulling those other things out and you start, oh, well, here are other dog characters and here they're talking about this stuff. And they reference it in conversation. And then it's like, oh, okay, I perfectly see. And my little, recall, button gets pushed and I insert that scene back into where it goes in the time flow. And so, so for me reading Gear, I didn't have that problem. That was something that I read it once the first time, and then I haven't read it in probably 8 years. So, which is why I was so excited to read it again for the show, because I wanted to go back and revisit it because I hadn't had a chance to dig into it. Well, that's not true. I've had lots of afternoons where I could have read it. I haven't taken the time to dig back into it in 8 years, 10 years, whatever it is.
Okay.
So.
Now. I have no problem with nonlinear storytelling. I like a good flashback. I even use many myself. I just think you do need to make it. Don't make me work for it. You should be able to do it in a way that makes it obvious when something is a flashback, whether that is using black and white or sepia, or even just saying 3 weeks ago. I tend to appreciate rather than having to go through 100 pages and then go, wait a minute. But I must say, everything I read in this book, I don't see that it needs to be a flashback. Mm-hmm. Anything you're saying is a flashback, I'm coming into right now just thinking, oh, I was just thinking that was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's not like anything had to lead up to anything else. The fact that he was...
No, I guess I can see that perspective. I just don't necessarily agree with it because there's so much about like the thing is revealed. And I guess I'll just go and spoil it for this 30-year-old comic. Look out, you were warned. One of the things is that Waffle turns into a guardian, turns into a giant mech. He does this because we find out that the priest character had been experimenting on him in the old ways because nobody in town knew how to fix their guardian. And so rather than keep it up, they just, Waffle had been abandoned. He was kind of stupid. So they just turned him into an implement of war. Right. It's which is horrifying.
But that's not a flashback. That's just a reveal.
Right. It's just mentioned that way. Right. So the thing is that when we have these things as flashbacks, we see the progression of the bringing down of the priest character, where he starts down a road and then continues down a road, and at the end of it, he even justifies himself. Right? I'm sorry, I'm so good at protecting our town. Meanwhile, the entire town is on fire.
Right.
Right. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about that. One of the things I like about this story specifically is that all of the leaders are compromised, right? In every way, that there's not a good guys or bad guys necessarily, that everybody is a victim to the war mindset that is taking on here. And there are worse guys and there are better guys, but everybody has a different they're all affected differently by this and negatively by the environment, the society in which they find themselves.
But did this story right here, right, with them going into the temple and him leaving them behind and everything, did that was that required to be at the beginning? Because the very next thing after he leaves, I just see it in the Grandmaster's hand, and I'm thinking, oh, he got it to him, right? In fact, didn't we watch him specifically leave it in his care because he didn't trust anybody else, right? Yeah, that's exactly
right here.
what happens. So I never thought to myself, oh, this was all supposed to have happened way back then. I thought this was just how they got, from here on out. Then the next thing we see,
but he had the gear before that.
The guy tries to take the gear. Are we saying that it's because he had this gear he was able to turn Waffle into a robot?
No, it's that he'd been corrupted at that point. So here you see here's the little symbol that is the beginning of the flashback. And here
there is a symbol.
There is a symbol. Yeah,
I was looking at the other screen when you did that. Oh, that's what that is.
And it says, "I'm so tempted to unleash this. Dr. Pilk asked me not to use it, but he couldn't have foreseen this predicament. I remember how Dr. Pilk was even threatened by fellow dogs."
That happened before this page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you've got that page, and then let's
if I'm not careful, names will easily escape me, and then details like that.
And then we have this one after it. See, here are the cult members stealing Dr. Pilk, and here is the other swirly and the letter that he was reading before the first swirly.
All right. Yeah, perhaps it would have been nice to have just like a 3 weeks ago or something, or years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely a choice that a person can make. And I'm such a huge fan of timelines that I really appreciate that and use them significantly in my own work.
But I will say this though,
6 minutes ago, all that kind of stuff.
Because I missed that one little detail, everything still appeared to have lined up perfectly. Mm-hmm. Like at no point was I confused as to what was happening. I actually took this linearly, and it's still the same story. Still essentially works out with or without it, in my opinion.
Yes, I don't know.
You could have done it that way if you wanted.
Yeah, you probably could have. But once again, I think that makes the reveal of the moral failing, the compromise of the priest, more poignant. Right. Another thing is also the scene where it's earlier. Total side note, but just as far as storytelling itself, when they flee down into the temple, and along the temple wall, you've got all the inscriptions about. Let me see if I can't find that page.
While you're doing that, I will point out why it just hit me. I think it actually would have been a good idea to do these flashbacks in black and white, because I'm not sure why he chose to do this, right? But he specifically went with this very old 1930s Disney-esque look, right? And so you've got the old cartoon style and gangsters and everything, and that actually would have fit in with the idea of something happening a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. That could be part of it. I honestly suspect he just wanted to draw it that way.
Yeah. Like you said, that's part of the whiplash for me.
Oh, here it is. It's actually after the introduction
could
of
be
gear, the
utilized
character.
that way.
It's actually after the introduction of gear. I'm going to full screen myself here to just kind of show this off. But after this introduction of gear, the character, which I'll talk about here in just a second, you've got this whole thing where you've got a fight in heaven. You've got one of the angels falling to the ground, his body parts being mangled and turned into a soup, and the rise of the guardians from that. So this whole idea of people meddling in God's domain being the creation of these guardians. So even the existence of the guardians are somehow morally suspect. So it's a pretty great. So the gear, the priest finally decides he's going to activate the gear, right? Oh, I'm full screening myself again. I forgot.
Which I absolutely hated this scene because we've got this guy who does the whole, I don't trust you, so I'm going to stab you in the back and try to take the gear for myself. And he's making the argument the whole time that we need to use it. And then the priest kills him and then decides to use it. It's like, well, gee, wish you could have made that decision about like a page or two earlier.
Well, yeah, he's compromised. That's
it was just such a waste. I'm like, nobody in this comic knows what they're doing.
Well, once again, I I think that's a pretty accurate expression of the human experience, frankly.
Like, honestly, what was his name? Dr. Pilk was the only character I could actually trust to do anything.
Well,
right?
Dr. Pilk and the Mr. Black and what's his name? Gordon. That's the orange-faced cat.
Yeah.
Okay, let me find that scene. Oh my gosh, come on.
It does seem like in every one of his books, he has an Earthworm Jim type character. It's like this guy from the cardboard book kind of looks like Earthworm Jim, and Gear kind of looks like Yeah. It's like Earthworm Jim should retain some of his uniqueness, Oh, he seems like the same. It's like he has the same character running through project after project. He usually has the same kind of.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, I got to go back to the scene. I actually misread this scene.
Oh
my goodness sakes. Okay, hang on a second. Let me bring this up here. So, yeah. Hang on here. Add to stage. Oh, fine. Remove you. Add you.
Oh, this is a twist.
Now check this out. Right? Hang on.
Right.
Here we go. So
he's gonna assassinate him.
So here's the thing: I've had enough of your screwball cult, right? Your old way stand between Newton and victory, but not for long. The cult cat puts a poison dart in a blow dart, right? And the guy blows it back into the guy's throat. But he'd activated Tink. He'd above here. The cult cat had activated the gear already. So it is not the priest who activates the gear. It's already activated. It's still over here activating. I see the little lights dancing. We studied guardian creation and mutation for generations, and none of us ever thought we'd actually see the forbidden mechanism, but it is working. But to see it working is beyond the grasp of mere mortals. And then tick, 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 bong, and it starts creating itself, right? And you have the formation of gear, right?
So this guy who just got killed is basically the unsung hero.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, that's the question. That's the question here is could they have defeated them without gear? And I would think that is probably largely the case because it is we'll get to that here in a second. Actually, we should probably just get to it right now. The gear is a sentient being, and he talks about he's got these bulbs on the top of his head, and he talks about those being his spirit eyes, where he can see into the spirit world. And And so it's revealed as it goes along that Gear was forged to superpower these mechanisms, these giant guardians, right? So one of the dog characters we glazed past earlier, just trying to rip through the story, he reveals that it was his ancestors who had forged the forbidden mechanism to superpower their mech. So he grabs Gear and throws him into the into this machine. But before we get to this, I have to share this great panel here. Let's just look at this here. Hang on a second. Sorry, everybody.
Okay.
I'm super unprofessional. There you go. There's a close up of Gear and his spirit, regularize the spirit eyes, and one of the Newton guards says he's a moron. Worse, the priest says he's an idiot moron. So, anyhow, okay.
But a lot of that chaotic humor in the book.
Yep. Well, and part of it's because
part of the tonal dissonance for me, but
right. And part of it is you also have to realize that when there's a scene on here where Gear, using his spirit eyes, looks into heaven and he sees Simon and Chi, the mantis kid from earlier, and they've both been transformed to guardians, but their spirits are both hanging out in the next life, right?
He sees them? I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah,
okay.
He sees them.
I didn't see
that. And that's how he's able to pull them.
It wasn't particularly needed, but it did. That is how they chose to do it.
He sees them, and then he's able to pull them back into their bodies. Here we go. Here's the scene I'm talking about. Since I got here, this was one I was going to look for, but here it is, right there. See what's wrong, Gear? It says Bong. I see the afterlife, and here's a waffle, and here's Chi.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so then we have a scene where they were up in the next life. They're sitting out here and they're sad here because everybody's fighting down there, right?
Yeah.
And if they could just like learn to love and realize that like this life is the practice for the next life, right?
I love that now the mantis can speak perfect English. As he's
and I love how Doug how Doug put the little translation of what it sounds like here. It's just a great touch. It's just a great touch. And so then Gear ends up pulling their spirits back into their mech bodies, and they become living characters in the play, and that's how those two mechs stop fighting and eject their own pilots as it goes on. And then as the course goes on, then they return to the afterlife as the thing goes on, and that's about the time that Gear is snatched and put into one of the dog mechs, and it turns into this giant, uber death mech who just starts tearing everything up. And
we should, of course, note that this
spoiler
is once again echoing Doug's absolute love for giant kaiju fights.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then spoiler alert, once again on a 30-year-old comic, Gear has to sacrifice himself in order to end the giant robot mech. And that actually ends up stopping the war because all of the Guardians have been destroyed by this giant fight. So that's the and then we have a very, very brief, and I honestly, as much as if I probably have a couple of complaints about Doug's stuff. One of them is in many of his books, his denouements are so short. Yeah, you have really, I think, really dynamic climaxes, and then like denouements that are like a page, page and a half, and like I love the Rising of the Shire, right? Like that whole extended end to Lord of the Rings, where they go back and kick Saruman out, and and then live out their lives, and we get to see in brief the generations fold out. And I absolutely love that extended denouement.
That's a bit much for me, but I do get
but man,
there's nothing I hate more than getting to the end of a video game and fighting a really hard boss battle to get a 30-second pointless cutscene.
I will give you this, in a video game, yes, right? Like the absolute best, maybe not the best, maybe that may be overselling it, but one of the best ends to like a cinematic type video game, the end of Metal Gear Solid, right? You have the fight scene and the talking and the fight scene and the talking, and then the Blade Runner end to the movie where they just have final narration and credits, right? And I think that works really, really well. And video games should be shorter ending than that, right?
Oh wow,
shorter ending. But in terms of this, right, there are a lot of things that happened that don't get addressed again. So we flash forward to Mr. Black as an old man living in Waffle's dream house, basically, where he was. And that's one of the things about the beginning of the story is Mr. Black is fixated on war and warfare, and Waffle is along because he's a good soldier. He's a faithful friend. He's being sent, and that's what he does. Meanwhile, at the end of the story, Waffle has become the war machine, literally, and then gone on to his eternal reward. And Mr. Black is left behind, rethinking and has rethought what life means. Right?
When he's raising the guppies.
And so you've got it's got a nice rhyme to it, but I would have preferred seeing a little of that trip. You know what I mean?
Here's where this gets ironic, though, because if you can put my screen back up so we can see it. Was it? I can't remember which book it was for. That Twitless pointed out, and Doug confirmed, that in every book, after the happy ending, he kind of throws in this subtle question, right? That kind of flips it up on its end and makes you want to go, kind of uneasy with things, right?
Yep.
One thing I do like about this book is that it seems ironically the opposite. The book is nothing but death and, like a lot of not disappointment, what's the word I'm looking for? Depression. The entire story, right? And then at the end, it's like this kind of hopeful response to it, right? Yeah, that was a whole lot of bad stuff, but now that it's over, we can actually start to look forward, and move on from here. And the fact
I actually think that's related to the point, but I don't think that's actually the point. I think that the point is that there is no moving on, right? Like it defines it, because what goes directly before that, right? It's the crosses. You see the graves of Waffle's grave and Simon's grave and Gordon's grave, right?
Which I was really annoyed that the cricket was not in there.
Yeah. Well, he died elsewhere.
I know, but still.
Yeah. And so the thing is that like those that are left, and the best thing to do in life is to move on, right? Is to realize that there is life beyond life, right? And that's kind of the end of it all, but it's still there, right? And the last line is, the guppies keep me from getting depressed until I see the boys again someday. Right.
That's the thing. Until I,
and the thing is,
the end is
right. The end is not the end, but it doesn't mean it's not without the trip. There is not without scars. And I would argue that some of what we have in these last 3 pages is that part of the beauty of life is the damage that we achieve along the way, right? It's that idea that soul building, like the struggles that we go through, are part of the beauty of our existence.
Right.
So I wouldn't say it's a subversion of Doug's trope of that twist. I think it's the acknowledgement that that the of the length of that, right? And that the like at the end of one of the things that I so appreciate about the end of Earthboy Jacobus is Earthboy Jacobus is about how fathers and sons and mothers and daughters and families are the bulwark against destruction and evil, right? But that battle never stops, right? It just doesn't stop. So don't think you can stop having kids and raising up families, because it's only godly families that are the ticket, that are the answer for the coming destruction, right?
And I totally agree with it, but I also do agree with Twitless's point that if you don't pick on that, it just seems like the most horrifying ending ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's part of it, right? Like even in the end of Gear, right? The horrors that this guy's gone through, and now that he's the only that Mr. Black is the only one left, right? Like that's heavy. That's heavy, right? He's gonna be living with just himself until it's the end of it all. And I think that's, I don't know, I think that's part of it. I think it's part of it. So, hey, Doug is showing up in the chat.
Shut up, everyone.
Don't watch the rest of the stream, Doug.
Doug can do what he wants. He's an adult.
I like you, I promise.
So,
I can't believe he missed your recap of the whole thing and explaining it to us so that we understand the book.
I might. Who knows if I did it? Who knows if I did a good job? Douglas, hey, it's the cat scratch guy.
The bus clutch. I never had a problem understanding it, honestly.
Yeah. I'm not saying you followed it, but I was kind of I don't know. We were talking. I
can understand your point though. Yeah. Like there is of jumping around, and a little bit. Some of the art is a little chaotic. I could see how someone could get lost.
Yeah,
right. I think that I'm willing to give, like you were saying, it's one of his first works. I'm willing to give him slack in that area at least.
Well,
did we already drive him away?
Oh, I don't know.
He's gone.
He went back to watch it from the beginning to find out what I meant.
Well, he's still in the chat. I hadn't shot him the link, so I was seeing if he texted me. I don't know if he even has time to get on today. So
I was thinking that he appeared in the fourth window, but that was just his comment. That's
he's in the chat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
he's in the chat. If he wants to come on, he's always welcome, of course. But I was saying that I hadn't. He has my phone number, so if he wanted to, he could text me. If he wants to, or I could see him on the Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter right now, so who knows? Or am I? Wait, this tab is open. I don't see the messages. Anyhow, that's fine. So, but yeah, I was what was I gonna say? I can't remember. Anyway, I really like Gear, and I think that honestly the chaotic art and the throwing around in time, I think reinforce the elements of the broken society that is using war as a replacement for order. And feeding the egos of the players. And that's the thing is all of the leaders of the government they're all glory hounds. Even the dogs. Maybe especially the dogs.
So here's the thing, and maybe we'll get to ask him if he jumps on. Okay. But you brought up Lackadaisy earlier, and I've talked about how I felt like what Lackadaisy was doing was putting these cute, funny cartoon and cats in there in place of humans so that you can go through the sometimes very serious material and not be overwhelmed with it, right? Do you think that in a story all about war and sacrifice and all these equally serious themes, that he might have been doing the same thing by using cartoon cats and dogs and Disney characters?
Well, I don't know. It's certainly possible.
When you talk about all the the horrible leaders, it's like I don't know. I think the priest character is a really good character. I mean, he doesn't want to use the gear because he, even though it could probably solve the problems, he's like, but I've been told this is, it's going to be cataclysmic if I use it. So
cataclysmic.
What cataclysmic? Yes, but it's just, he does. He isn't just a glory hound. I mean, like,
right, you're right, and you are right about that. And I actually have to reassess my opinion from even earlier in the stream on the priest, because I had misread that scene, right? And when I went and I did not remember it from the first time I read it. So if you go back and see that
he doesn't unleash.
He doesn't start it. That he's at that point a victim of circumstance, so to speak. So, and that's one of the aspects to it that changes up the way the entire formula can work. So, so Doug did ask for the link. I sent it to him. We'll see.
He's having the same internet issues I am.
Could be. Maybe it's something about the South.
The link for what? The link for this video?
Come in and chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Sorry. I've had a long day. Wednesdays are always the day where I have my show and your show. So it's like, yeah. And I'm rushing around the rest of the time. So sorry. I'm a little wiped out.
Yeah. It has been one of them days. So wait a second. Hang on. Where'd it go? I'm on the wrong thing. Doug.
Oh.
Hello.
Oh, my people.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
We kind of had a mild bet going. You talked about on Rat Fist how you just were drawn whatever came to mind, kind of threw it at the wall. Was that in the process with gear, or was it something that you had very finely mapped out as it went along?
Definitely wrote it straight ahead. I had an idea of where the ending would end up, that it would be a mighty, cataclysm, but I didn't know exactly what would be there. This is my first book. And I remember, so I penciled the whole first 24 pages at a time that I did it.
So did you, so it was a thing where you did like issue 1 and then the next 24 pages and the next as it went?
Yeah, this was through Fireman Press. So they published it. That was the Scud, Rob Schraub guys.
Okay.
Peter Alberts and Dan Harmon from Community and all that. And Rick and Morty created it. So that was their publishing company called Fireman Press. And they were looking to reach out and do a few other titles. And I was already friends with those guys. I'd hang out with them and draw with them all the time. And then I showed them gear. They said, yeah, we're going to do this. And the original books were small. They were like a slightly smaller edition. And they would like hand silk screen covers. Rob Schraub like hand silk screened covers, some of them on vinyl. It was a really cool, almost like a zine production, and we would sell them at Comic-Con, one at a time. And then I gathered them together for the graphic novel. And I think Fireman Press did the first version of it. And then after that, it went to Image.
Well, I do know that it's true because I looked it up today.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So I had not realized until yesterday that it had been published separately. I don't know. I just had never run across that before. So
yeah, I see those original books around. They're very small print runs. So
yeah. So I had another question, but I can't remember what it was.
We were talking about the idea of the artwork and whether it is a foil basically for the tone.
Oh yeah. So the thing that started the whole gear thing was I'm trying to bring up your show so I can look at the chat. Let me turn the volume down on it. My goal was I loved Ren and Stimpy, and I loved Frank Miller. He might have been doing Sin City by then.
Yeah, I think so.
The black and whites. And so I was really into black and white comics, and I just wanted to do, so it was like Ren and Stimpy art or Disney art or whatever, with all done in like a Frank Miller style. So the high contrast, you know, I kept the characters cartoony, but it was very high contrast, right? You see it in all the
This
black.
was originally in black and white.
You'd see it better in the black and white version, which is better than the color, but color always sells more than black and white. So,
Those Disney characters do make a lot more sense that way.
yeah. So, and yeah, the brutality of it. So we had, back when I did Neverhood, we had pitched a game like this in this style, but it was like kind of the
So you were doing it before it was cool.
yeah, kind of like the Oswald Rabbit. Yeah, way before Cuphead and the shooting stuff. These guys were all gangsters. They're like, nah, see? And they were gangsters threatening each other with guns and
which, as I was saying earlier, you know, that's what everybody's doing nowadays since Steamboat Willie came into play. They're all doing the horror stuff.
I was doing it 30 years before anyone, and it's boring to me. By the time everyone else does, I go, yeah, we had that idea for a game. And it wouldn't have worked, you know, because it was 30 years before culture could catch up to it, which is my problem with all of my ideas. Is I'm way too far ahead of culture. And so you can't sell to a mass if you're the first person doing everything. It's like enough of them are going to fail, you know, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, just the way it goes.
Because I'm sure I'm not the only one who read that first page and immediately thought of that.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Isaac, I think it's a typo, but he called you a tread setter.
Oh,
yeah, I'm a tread setter too. I set the treads.
Gotta keep them tires doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, in fact, in like the mid 2000s, I did bikes and stuff were here on Earth, and now I see the Neutron coming out, and it's bikes here on Earth, and I had recognizers flying through New York and stuff. I pitched that to Disney. That was like 25 years too soon, 20 years too soon.
Something like that. Yeah. So when it came to, I guess one of the questions that I had is you have this, there's this theme that it's in gear, and it shows up again in Bigfoot Bill, right? The idea of mortal scientists. It's probably it's probably in the Neverhood too. But the mortal scientists using angelic remains in some sort of mad science sort of thing. Where did that come from?
It comes from my work, a lot of it in apologetics. It's a pushback. You'll see it in a lot of my books, most of them, in fact. Black Cherry does it too, a form of it. It's the idea of scientific materialism, which is a philosophy that invades science. So you're not able to look at evidence without bias. You look at it through an atheistic worldview, and so you limit the results because and really real life is so full of miracle and strangeness, and that the idea that you'd think if I just, if I have the controls, I can conduct things in a lab and get perfect truth is ridiculous. It definitely doesn't take into account the bias of the scientist, who's a human being, and when have human beings ever lied or been wrong? So a lot of it has, and I kind of answered that more in Black Cherry, where how when people think of aliens coming to Earth, they always assume they're atheists.
Yep.
They always go, it's going to cause just a great dismantling of societies if people ever found out there were aliens out there. Because then the real, high minds will come down, and it'll be like, what's the secret? How was the universe made? And they'll be, like, oh, the particles, everything evolved, and we panspermia the earth we planted seeds. Oh, that's all throughout science fiction. It always bugged me. So in Black Cherry, they find an alien, and he's a Catholic priest. Because an atheist would go in a lab and go like, oh, science is above religion. But if they ever found this intelligent life that could go across the universe, or they're interdimensional beings or whatever, and what if they were like evangelical preachers? They're on TV and they're like bringing them out to all the presidents and the world leaders going, what do you have to say? And they go, Jesus is Lord. They're like, no. Did you ever see the Saturday Night Live where they have the dog, they put the helmet on him and they can read his thoughts?
No.
And he says,
Vote for Trump. A super long time ago.
Vote for Trump. They're like, can we kill the dog? They finally get a helmet that can read a dog's thoughts, and Scarlett Johansson is the guest. That is the joke that I'm kind of telling in all of these with these scientists and priests. You get a little bit of it with Star Wars too, The Empire is like an evil system. Forget Darth Vader and the Emperor, because they're at odds with the Empire. The stormtroopers and the mechanical and the beam, and they're fighting Vader in the first movie. They're all making fun of him, going, your old practices aren't any good here.
Right.
We have a Death Star. We have a super weapon. And it's Ben Kenobi, who's kind of this priest who comes back with this old way, and Vader knows the power of that old way because he's the dark side of it. So that argument it's all throughout culture. I know Matt Krotz is going to say I'm pumping stuff into it. No, it's in almost every story. It's the same thing with Saruman mixing the dark arts with military prowess to create the Uruk-hai and all his advanced weaponry. There's all these rumors of the kind of experiments that Hitler did and the communists did with breeding apes and men to create a super army. And there's the idea that science is for only smart, good people. And C.S. Lewis did this better than anyone in that hideous strength. The idea that science is just for smart, good people is kind of what I've been fighting for like 30 years in my stories.
Well, and even the idea that, and it seems so funny to me that at the end of we're past that, but in the 20th century, right, where we went into the 20th century with this whole the technocracy has finally brought world peace. We've built war machines so horrendous no one will ever go to war. We have all of the treaties we could possibly need. We've built unsinkable ships, unsinkable airships. And every time God's just like, you are man and you are dust. And our own hubris, we hang ourselves. We witness, scientific materialists just rounding up people and throwing them into the meat grinders, the Khmer Rouge, for crying out loud, right? The all of that stuff. And we have this idea that what they've persisted, the society and our Western culture has persisted in this idea that no, this time we'll figure it out. That wasn't real. Socialism has never been tried.
Yeah.
And I'm using socialism here just as a shorthand for this whole idea that human minds can come up with the ultimate machine made up of
like the Nietzscheism, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of war. Everyone likes war and battles until they discover that magic can multiply it. That's in all of D&D and Warhammer and all that. It's in Hellboy, the Nazis, they find a demon, he'll be on our side, and they never take into account that he could join the other side. It's all over sci-fi. It's kind of normal. So it's not, I don't think Gear's take on it is anything original,
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I can argue, I can definitely see that. I mean, I see just in a lot of the framing not necessarily like the set building, but in the terms of the way you move the pieces around. I mentioned this on the show earlier that I see a lot of Tolkien's walking quests being part of the fabric of gear, and
they have to go a long way.
You have to go a long way, and even if it's a machine walking, it's still walking. So,
yeah.
Even the secret under the mountain, right under Mount Peak.
And they're kind of caught up in a war. Some of that's in Princess Mononoke too. It's like characters have a small local issue, and then there's a bigger issue with this big war going on. So those are often war stories are that way. They're not just about one big war. Saving Private Ryan's about a very small, intimate group going through a giant war as they walk across the country.
And that was the case for I mean, that was what made DC's war comics in the 60s and 70s work. Is every issue was 30 minutes, 2 days out of this big conflict, and so you got to bear down to the real human issues that were going on in every single issue.
That's actually one thing I don't care much about Star Wars, is that it's always focusing on the big war, and you never get to really explore this massive universe he's created, because there's just always another war. Every single day we're fighting battle. Right?
I think that's a real failure of the. You get some of that, I think, in the from the third movie. Episode 6, but in the original 2, and I think the third too, it's more small things. They have to hint at the big stuff, but then by the time George gets to be George and gets to take his head, right, and he just pulls the entire wagon into the Senate, all the procedural. And
Tolkien had the big war at the end too. Yeah. At some point, you have to address that big battle, but the idea is that it's small, intimate. A hobbit and his gardener that really is the crux of the war. Yeah. What it's he's kind of going. Don't forget about friendship, which is weird that he inserted that in the book, and that's what the whole thing is about. But it ends up making a wonderful statement.
Yeah.
And, Tolkien, of course, wanted to, do Norse mythology, and you can't do Norse culture without doing war. So,
well, war's a good thing to talk about in a story. It's supposed to be adventure,
but my point is that 50, almost 60 years later, we've had 3 trilogies, endless shows and comics and stuff, and still, you never just have a story about, say, spies going on a secret covert mission, or dealing with gangsters in the inner city, right? It's always about the conflict between these two massive sides. Even when the war is ended, now you've got to start a new one up because it's Star Wars, right?
Could the
original?
This is totally off subject. Could the branding, in fact, be a curse to the franchise?
Yeah.
He didn't know what to do with it. The first
so.
Trilogy was great, and everything else is garbage. And he knew what he was doing on those first 3, and then after that, he didn't.
Yeah, I actually really do agree that he just, didn't he with what's that joke? The dog chases the car. What does he do if he catches it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he got his wish come true.
Well, I'm curious then, on that note, Doug, I would love to find out your thoughts. What, are your feelings about war? Because
I love it.
This book, no, I asked because in this book, it looked for a long time, and then, of course, it seemed like I was going to have my suspicions confirmed, that the ultimate point at the end would be we need to all stop fighting altogether, right? And the saving of the day would come through the sides simply ending the war entirely. But then immediately it actually went into the old idea of, well, now we have to put aside our differences to go fight this other threat instead.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at that.
Yeah, and I'm very much not an anti-war guy. I mean, our country was founded, every country is founded on a war. There's good wars, there's bad wars. I I don't think Gear was about a war is the problem. That was just the set, you know, to put it up against. That's my first defense, is all of the war talk was to set up pieces for the characters to do what they needed to do. It's very much intimate about Waffle and the friendship between Waffle and Simon and Gordon is and Mr. Black is more what it was about. And really it's Mr. Black's story.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And one thing I think is, and we talked about this early just before he came on, is one of the things I so appreciate about the denouement, although I wish there was more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with that is I really do appreciate that it shows the weight of it. Like, the war isn't the point. That's like you said, that's the setting that people are going through, but they have to come out through it, right? And there is suffering, and that's part of the trip, you know? And
yeah, and he's, you know, if you look at who Mr. Black is in this story, he's very cynical at the beginning. Remember, he puts on this hat, so it makes me look like a badass. It's like he wants to do something great in military.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him the voice of like your classic, you know, drill sergeant like character.
Yeah, and Waffle is the dumb brother. There's always a retarded brother kind of these guys. There's 1,000 of those movies too. Of Mice and Men is probably an influence on that. And by the end, he has embraced Waffle's values. He raises guppies, and instead of putting on a show for others, he's alone and at peace in his own skin. It took a long time because he's got this white beard. This is many years after. And he's not pursuing fame or notoriety anymore.
And I think it's also telling, like, in order for him to find peace, he had to go through grief.
Yeah.
Right. And it's such
he's the one who loses everything, and he's kind of punished by living, you know?
Yeah. But at the same time, when he goes through, he loses everything, but that's actually how he gains things. Because when he's living this life of wishing, of wanting to be the badass, of wanting to have respect, right? He's not really living his life. He's projecting into a life he wishes he had. And once he's lost everything, then he can actually live.
Yeah, he's liberated.
He's liberated from his need.
And you got to see the adventure of what it took. That's what it takes.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think that's part of the beauty of living, is the suffering of living. I mean, as maybe weird as that is to say, I think that we want our happy endings easy. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Gear is that the happy ending is not easy. I'm happy.
I'm 59 years old. I'm almost 60. I wrote this book probably when I was 31 or 32. So it's neat to me that because I was informed by great Western tradition and bigger ideas in my books, there's nothing in this that's really terrible, you know, that I need to divorce or I don't believe in or whatever. I was always dealing with more universal stuff than that. There aren't a lot of my stories.
Books, you mean? Or?
Of all my books, yeah, most of my books, because I'm dealing with I'm always trying to think of stories that I say would be true 2,000 years ago and will be true 2,000 years from now. That's a hard story to write.
Well, especially, 2,000 years ago, how would they know what a giant mech was?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and for all I know, in 10 years, giant mechs will be walking around everywhere. So they'll be like, look how they used to think it was so magic.
Well, there are large stretches of North Dakota where that wouldn't even be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just wanted to draw giant robots. That was. And there's some of that, I think, in Ghost of the Shell, too, the ensoulment of a robot kind of thing, the ghost in the shell. And Waffle, his soul gets put in a robot.
We said that, by the way.
It's
We
the same
said
thing
that.
it's in Bigfoot Bill also. I mean, not Bigfoot Bill, but Me Bill in the Neverhood is a robot that kind of has a good or bad soul. Yeah. So Ghost in the Shell reference.
Yeah, we said that you wanted to just draw giant robots.
Definitely.
Well, no, I said he loves his giant monster, his kaiju.
Yeah.
friends.
I love kaiju.
Well, and the version I have, Doug, is the 20th anniversary edition, right?
Oh, cool.
And so in the back of it, you've got notes about like what went into the cat scratch pitch and stuff like that. And I love this note here. I'm going to go ahead and read the whole thing. It says,
Okay.
I originally wanted to feature lots of giant robots in the Cat Scratch TV series, but we felt the three main cats would be better shown as the most amazing, bizarre thing in the world of the show. The giant robots would distract from that. We were probably wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love that statement.
We were probably wrong. That was a good time at Nickelodeon, man. I had a blast back then.
Cool.
And that was like 5 years later.
Yeah.
It got picked up. So the graphic novel lasted at least that long. They were still reading it and going, there's something about this. We want to do a show.
Yep.
Like that's pretty good.
It's not bad. Okay. I think we got to call the show because I still have to go change the oil in my kid's car.
Oh my. You're still working on cars.
It's dark out there and I got to figure out how I'm going to light myself. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much for covering this book. I just love that people are reading it. I think it doesn't, and I don't care who agrees with me or not. Yeah, that's not the purpose of a book. Yeah, I love, even if people hate it, that's not the point. The point is, I think it's great that people care about it enough to talk about books.
Cool. And we're glad to be doing it. I know, like I said, I love this book. And so it was fun for me to talk about it.
Cool.
And next week, I cannot remember. I think I have a schedule, so I'm going to have to go back and look at it. The worst host on the internet, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It won't be one of Doug's books, though.
Yeah.
So
it was nice seeing you again, Doug. Don't watch the show from the beginning.
I'll live. You don't understand what I've heard in the last 30 years of my life. I have zero emotions left for what people think of my work, and I don't care if there's critiques. It's if they're true. It bugs me if it's true.
Oh, that's funny.
that's amazing.
Well, I expect you to be far more gracious than most, anyway. But
anyway, that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Doug, for coming along. And until next time, get out there and read some comics. And you guys have yourself a great week.
Oh, yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, brother.
Yes.